Welcome everyone to our YouTube channel, and in today's video, Kwesi Pratt has made explosive statements and given very important information on Good Morning Ghana recently, and we would like you to go and watch, and after the video we will give our commentary. Thank you.
Kwesi, have you so far been impressed with how the president has hit the ground running?
Well, first of all, I don't want to be confused.
Okay.
Because I understand that there's a newspaper review program, and therefore the stories we look at and so on ought to come from the newspapers, So I don't want to be confused on that score.
Right.
Having said that, a number of the things that you have said have been reported on in the newspapers.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm clear in my head that no one can judge the performance of a government or a president on the basis of what has happened in a few days, perhaps less than a week. So I'm not going to pass any judgment on the president and his government based on what has happened within 1 week. This government has a 4-year term, and we can come to conclusions about what it is doing at the end of its 4-year term. It doesn't prevent us, however, from making observations about some very specific actions that the government has taken or not taken now. That's not a judgment over the performance of the government over its 4-year term, but specific, policies and so on. Now, one of the things which has been hinted at is this question of the privatization of the electricity company of Ghana.
Yes.
And the Public Utility Workers Organization yesterday or so issued a very, very strong statement disagreeing with government. And they have pointed out that in the past, privatizations have not worked, as a measure for revamping the economy or even for revamping the utility sector.
Yeah.
And they make reference to the Aqua Vitans Rand agreement.
Yeah.
And which didn't work, and which led to mass agitations leading to the cancellation of that agreement, the Aqua Vitan Rand agreement. We are also intensely aware of the privatization effort, the effort to privatize revenue collection by the Electricity Company of Ghana, which was handed over to the Electricity Company of France, which didn't work, and government quickly had to cancel that arrangement. Since 1966, we've been intensely aware of privatization of between 400 to 500 state enterprises, which didn't work, and so on. So I'm inclined to agree with the Public Utility Workers Union that we ought to be very careful when it comes to privatization, especially of such a crucial utility as the Electricity Company of Ghana. It has serious security implications and so on. The other thing that we need to consider is that the ECG cannot operate solely on the basis of profit. Because if the ECG were to operate solely on the basis of the accumulation of monetary profit, it may not be under any obligation to extend electricity to the rural areas where it makes very little money or no money at all. You understand? So the ECG also renders a social service, and we need to take account of that. How would privatization impact on the rendering of that social service, to us and so on? Now, they also raise a very crucial issue about the repatriation of profits and how it can have very dire consequences on the value of our currency. And that's a legitimate question that the Public Utility Workers Union is raising. And many other things. They also talk about the possibility, of retrenchment of labor, which would be a social cost to the economy and so on. So I'm in full agreement with the Public Utility Workers Union, and I believe very strongly that the issue of privatization should be looked at very, very carefully. I think we shouldn't rush into privatization, especially as people in this very government were strongly opposed to the privatization of the ECG only a few years ago. I would be very surprised if we push this privatization agenda with the gusto that is becoming, apparent in the statements made by the nominee for Minister for Energy. That's one issue which has come up. Various appointments have been made. As of today, 13 ministers have been nominated.
Yeah.
The president promised to nominate, not more than 60. And I've said repeatedly that he has to keep that promise. He definitely has to keep the promise. I'm aware of some people who have said that, the promises made in the elections can be set aside.
Yes.
There are people who have said that, if you even appoint 65 or 70, we can deal with it. There are people who have said that even though they promised to abolish e-levy, given the financial constraints the country faces now and so on, if he keeps it for some time, it's okay. No. Master, we have come to the stage where we have to take election promises and pledges seriously. If you promise to appoint not more than 60 ministers, we expect that you'd appoint not more than 60 ministers. Even an addition of one ought to be resisted. It has to be 60 or 59 or even 40. We'll be fine with that. But to exceed the 60 limit is a dangerous sign. You understand? Now, you cannot promise that you would remove the e-levy in an election campaign, win the elections, and then 2 weeks after assuming office say that, you made a mistake, let it stay. It won't stay. There will be resistance. So politicians ought to learn that when they mount platforms and make promises, the people take the promises seriously.
And so you must keep them.
Yeah, to be kept. Apart from this, there's also some very pedestrian analysis. Very, very pedestrian analysis. Those who are saying, for example, that the president should not keep the pledge to remove the e-levy are saying that, look, the country has problems with mobilizing revenue, and therefore, if you remove the e-levy, there will be a hole, as it were, in the national pocket. I completely disagree. I understood the promise to remove e-levy as a promise to review the entire system of taxation.
True.
To make it rational, to rationalize the system of taxation. Okay. One of the major arguments that was made against the e-levy was that it affected vulnerable people in a very dramatic way. And so I would think that if you're going to do rationalization of the tax policy, tax regime, and so on, you can remove e-levy and look at other areas where you may enhance taxes or impose taxes which would not have that detrimental effect on ordinary poor people.
Right.
That would fit into the regime, of tax rationalization. Yesterday I was making the point, for example, that those who have guns in this country, pay only 12 cedis as gun licensing fees. That's ridiculous, isn't it?
It's more than that now. It is.
No, it's 12 cedis.
It's still
150.
12 cedis, my brother. Renewal of gun license.
Thank you very much for watching the video till now. We really appreciate your presence and support anytime and every time we upload content. Personally, when I saw and listened to Kwesi Pratt on his submission, I was very much impressed and glad that at least someone is giving out these brilliant suggestions to this current administration. Privatization of ECG is a no idea, and Kwesi Pratt has said it all. He also touched on presidents fulfilling their promises, campaign promises. That was also brilliant. In fact, the whole message and submission of Kwesi Pratt was just on point. Was really speaking the Ghanaians' voice, and we hope that this present administration will get Kwesi Pratt's message and go by it, and it will help all of us as Ghanaians. Thank you all very much. For more content like this, like, subscribe, share. Also, let us have your reflections and suggestions in the comment section. We'll be glad to always have you